Words. There we are. All right, so welcome, Henry. Thank you for being on the podcast, episode 5 of One to Come Up, where we go over our guest's entire life, see who they are personally, professionally, and then we figure out why they are the way they are. So, Mr. Michaelson, it was actually pretty difficult to research about you. There's not too much on the internet about you. So normally I like to go back to your college days, though, or maybe even your high school days. But I couldn't really find too much about you during that time. So could you maybe introduce yourself and explain how you were in college and your high school and the beginning of your career, kind of?
Yeah. Well, nice to meet you, Danny.
Yeah, nice meeting
Um, yeah, so my name's Henry. I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I went to um kind of like public elementary and middle schools, and then I went to a small private high school that had a lot of focus on, creative abstract thinking, as well as a strong emphasis on music and on um, kind of that entrepreneurial spirit of that you can make anything that you want and that you can actually that you have the ability to create something that's meaningful and special. And so I went there and through there I actually met two of my closest friends who I later started the business with. Um, but we all three went three separate colleges. And I went to UC Berkeley in the Bay Area, where I studied computer science and cognitive science, and really started to build build more of a technical foundation around how do you actually build something in technology that is worthwhile, right? There's a whole technical framework for how you actually build computer applications and actually build them to last and build them to scale. And yeah, so that was kind of my early high school and college career. I mean, the one kind of really interesting thing was that when I was younger, I was really, really into music, and I think that definitely shaped uh me wanting to start a company. And that
you.
when I was younger, I played guitar all over the Los Angeles area, and I joined a group of older African American blues musicians, and they kind of took me under their wing, and I played like 3 shows a week with them
Wow.
for 4 years, really my entire time during high school. And what that did was that, it taught me how to hustle and how to get people to come to your shows, but it also taught me about creativity, how to jam with other people, and how to create new ideas dynamically on the spot. Um, but it also taught me, like you have to get creative. You have to be able to market what you're doing. You have to be able to, think of what you're doing as a product, get it out there. And and yeah, that experience was transformational for me. Um, and then when I went to college, I went in and I was studying computer science. It was very, very, there were 2,000 kids in my first freshman year class in
Wow.
computer science one. And, um, and it just didn't feel creative. It didn't feel like, didn't feel interesting. And I, I thought back on my experiences in playing music and actually making something. And it was like, I want to do that rather than just, being a specialist and then working at Apple or something like that. And so, uh, yeah, no, so that kind of inspired me to pursue, at that time, it was mobile apps were all the rage. And so created an idea with two of my best friends from high school while we were in separate colleges. We all thought up an idea to kind of put all the food delivery apps inside of one place so you could, so you could see uh, everyone who was delivering to you in your area, and you could see who is the cheapest provider and who is the fastest provider. Um, and it was a good idea. We got some traction, and we were able to actually raise money and start the company. Um, and so yeah,
So that's quite the leap though from music to to computer science initially, and then to entrepreneurship. So do you think growing up in the Los Angeles region and the Bay Area region and seeing, because that's, the hub spot really for entrepreneurs for Silicon Valley, do you think that in any way influenced you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, you know, I think playing music made me, and like starting bands and doing those things, like that made me want to make something. But there's so many ways that you could make something, right? Like
Yeah.
doesn't all have to be a tech company. Like it could be many, many different ways in which you could bring your creativity through to a project that you own. Um, but I think if you're if you have a creative mindset and you're mathematically inclined and you go to school in the Bay Area, it's really hard to not start a startup because there's just so much energy out there of, you know, it's like it's the people that you're around, right? The people in that area, the people that make it, quote unquote, are people that start at that time apps, but now it's, B2B SaaS platforms and AI companies. But
Yeah, right
eh,
now.
like if you were creative and living in New York, maybe you would go into finance because everyone in New York, if you're really making it, is doing
Finance.
finance or something like that.
Wall
So
Street.
yeah, so I think I got really lucky to land in the right place. And I think that, because of my skill set, it was really like a natural kind of expansion. But at the same time, I mean, a lot of people want to start apps. You have to get incredibly lucky to actually get the opportunity to make one. And you have to get even more lucky to have the ability to run it for many years and eventually sell it, which we did in March of this last year.
Wow. Yeah, so we'll get to that point a little bit later in the interview as well. So coming out of college, you before you started Halla, you were in like as you kind of mentioned, like a another AI company that you guys founded, but for restaurants as well, right? How did that go?
Yeah, no, so it was actually all part of Hala. So it
Okay,
was
or Halla.
so two of my best friends from high school, Spencer Price and Gabriel Napodi, the three of us, we started thinking about like what general space in the technology world, like where's their opportunity? And we all three love food, and we thought, the way our kind of core idea that started the company was that when people look for what they want to eat for dinner, as it still stands today, they have to look a for like a restaurant. So it's like, it's like, oh, what do you want? Oh, I'm thinking I'll get Mexican food. Let me look up the places. Oh, I might choose this spot. But at the end of the day, what we three realized was that, the future is going to be far more food delivery focused, so the future is going to be food delivery. At least, from the perspective of 18-year-old dudes, right? Who
Yeah,
who I mean, I did not cook back then.
we're still
So
in
if you
college. Yeah,
don't yeah, if you don't cook and you're in college with no kitchen, you're probably going to do a lot of food delivery,
yeah.
especially if your dorm has terrible food, which mine did. Um, and so, you know, based on those assumptions, we thought, we could build a better browsing experience for how people find food by instead of matching people to restaurants, which is how Yelp and, all those types of companies work. Why don't we try to match people to the actual dishes in the restaurants?
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah, so the idea was to go beyond the restaurant. Think about, if you're getting delivery, it doesn't matter that the ambiance
Yeah,
is
where it
nice
comes
or that the
from.
staff is, yeah. What matters is like, what is the best burrito for me? Where am I going to find the best thing? And so that started our journey into how can we build algorithms that can predict what people are likely to buy and what they're likely to enjoy. And, and as that applies to food, because food is it is more complex than other types of recommendation systems
Yeah,
because oftentimes, like, and especially with grocery, as we found later, but you find something like orange, right? Like
yeah,
like orange can be an ingredient, can also be a color, it could be a scent, it could be a flavor. It can be a whole bunch of different types of things. The question when you're building, a recommendation engine is, I need to be able to understand this, user behavior and draw meaning out of it such that I can predict what someone would like in the future. And the most important way to do that is to understand the things that they bought before. And you need specially tuned algorithms, or at least you did in 2016 when we started the company. So when we started it, again, we were trying to understand and predict what people were likely to enjoy, and we were trying to understand how that applied to restaurants. What we found was that, while food delivery was coming, it didn't kind of pan out the way we thought it would. Like, we were hoping that there would be 10 different delivery providers, and that, you would essentially like um that there would be fierce competition for who would actually deliver you your food.
Yeah,
And what we've kind of seen is that DoorDash has basically won in many
yeah,
respects.
it's a
And
monopoly.
yeah, so like the the whole kind of idea behind our app didn't quite work, but what we found was that our tech worked really well. And so we took that basic idea and then we said, hey, can we, instead of, actually building an app to help people find dishes at restaurants, can we use our technology to help grocery stores build better websites? And
Okay.
the main idea there was that, grocery stores do an unbelievable amount of business. You're talking,
Yeah.
you know, huge, huge, huge amounts of revenue coming through them. And they're growing very quickly online, but their websites are terrible. And that's because these are grocery stores. They're not technology experts. And it was, can we go in and with the algorithms, with the expertise, with everything that we have, can we improve on that, on the shopping experience? And that's what really started our pivot, which is what we ended up working on over the past 6 years and eventually sold. Um, and so what this pivot was again, it was using these algorithms. We built an AI system that understands, all the different products inside of your grocery store. And then based on what you've bought in the past, can suggest items that you might like in the future, can replace items that are no longer available at the time that you've purchased, but like let's say you order oranges, but they're out of stock. Do you want, limes, lemons, or papayas? You know, that can actually do replacements or and then also doing search. So understanding, when somebody types appetizers that they're looking for these specific products because, oh, well, we know they really like these types of flavors and they're gluten free and, all of that. So that kind of began um our kind of reskinning our technology to turn it into something that could benefit grocery stores. And yeah, so we started that a long time ago. We kind of found our niche. But in the past many years, we've worked with most of the largest grocers in the United States, and we've shown that we can seriously improve the efficacy of their systems by using our proprietary AI that we've created.
Wow, that's amazing that you guys were even before ChatGPT, I think. I think ChatGPT was started in 2017 around then. But that you guys were even ahead of that. And that initially you kind of started at the restaurants, but you realized that wasn't working, but you realized your technology was great, and then you kind of switched it over. I think that's very impressive that you continued to persevere and knew what you were doing was good. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah. So I guess that's a good time as well to have been starting it all when AI was taking off and like thinking capable AI, and you were in college. That must have been a good time to start a business, right?
Yeah, I mean, like when you're in college, you don't really have anything to lose, right? Like you don't own a house, you don't have kids. You're relatively speaking eating ramen every night. It's like your cost of living is low. It's a perfect time to take a risk and try something new and learn, and that and I think especially when you go to a place that's in the Bay Area, it's the whole ethos of the place is around rewarding people that take risks. So it makes you want to take risks, and I think I'm incredibly grateful to have been surrounded by that energy because it just created, an atmosphere where, oh, I had this idea. And instead of being told, don't do it, you were told, do it. You could be a billionaire too. And in reality, very few people are billionaires, but it's an incredibly worthwhile journey to take because it makes you a stronger, better version of yourself.
Yeah, it may not be the monetary reward that you see, but the more emotional and mental growth that's most important. And I think that's all
Totally.
overlooked. I think that's all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so how did you guys? That's a very interesting business. I've had a lot of people. I guess don't. When I first started researching this, I really didn't see an issue or honestly a need for your business. So, is that really like a big problem that grocery companies have, like their technology? What's the magnitude of
Y-
that issue?
Yeah, I mean it's like you can think about it like this. There's I think something like $150 billion a year that are going through e-commerce grocery. Um, may even be higher now. And and these sites are extremely poorly performing when you look at them versus the Walmarts, Amazons, Krogers of the world. So these very, very large retailers, they invest billions of dollars. Well, maybe not billions, but hundreds of millions of dollars in their technology, and that allows them to really monetize the end user. So, when you think about Walmart, you might think about their huge stores, but in reality, they're really, in many ways, they're a data science organization. They need to know what the right products are to stock. They need to know how to get as much money out of their shoppers as possible. And why is this important? Which is that regional retailers like the ShopRites of the world in New Jersey and you know, they're really falling behind. They need to catch up, or else the world is just going to be owned by these large, very, very large tech savvy retailers. And so, what's the magnitude of the problem? You know, in terms of stuff, it's, grocers are missing tens of billions of dollars of untapped sales just because they're doing a bad job of building good user experiences, right? So, you're talking about at least tens of billions of dollars in terms of greater market potential. But it's not just that, it's also, not just the ability to get more sales, it's the ability to remain competitive, right? So in the United States, there's about 50 grocers that really, call all the shots, but really only five of them are competitive from a digital standpoint. So these
Wow.
five are going to eat the other 45. And so I think it's really important, when you think about protecting all of these mid-sized chains and actually allowing them to compete with, with the likes of the Krogers, the Albertsons, Amazons of the world.
Yeah, that's very interesting that how everything is becoming increasingly more important online and in the digital world. Um, I realized earlier today that TikTok, I've never seen somebody wear like a TikTok sweater or like seen a physical TikTok advertisement. And I realized that's because that they don't need that because they only need that people on their phones or people posting on there to advertise it. And because everything's transferring from the physical world to the online world, and that's where they need advertisement. So, do you think with companies, there's going to be an increasing more importance on their digital and their technological standpoints?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I think it's a great question. I think that more and more people are moving towards buying things online because it's just easier, right? Like you can't just have technology for the sake of technology. It has to actually enable something, right? So like in the case of TikTok, what it's doing is it's allowing, many more people to be creators. And it's allowing for fresh voices rather than just, the 50 channels that you might see on your TV or something like that, right? So it's like technology actually it's allowing more expression in that sense. And I think that'll continue. Um, in terms of, you know, in terms of for retail, at this point in time, it's just creating greater convenience. And people are getting more and more comfortable actually using e-commerce type shopping solutions. Now, in 2020, everyone had to shift their behavior very abruptly because of COVID, because there was a horrible pandemic, and you actually couldn't go to the store. And
Yeah, so you
so
might be taken off then.
yeah, and so you see this huge jump around then, and everyone was saying e-commerce is here, it's the future, and then it's kind of leveled off since then. But I do think that like the long trend is in the favor of e-commerce, only because um, you can order from anywhere from your phone, and the websites are just going to get better and more tailored over time. And, that is so much better than actually having to drive 30 minutes to the store you were looking for to then wait in line and wait to check out.
Yeah.
So I do think from your point, like we're gonna see greater convenience. That's the way in which this thing is gonna grow. I don't think it's gonna be, like I don't think it's a question of marketing. It's a question of just making a good enough user experience that over time it's compelling and people decide to stick with it. And it's also demographic change, right? Like my demographic, people in their late 20s, early 30s, are now spending more money because we have more money and we're used to spending online, So it's like the people that are of an older generation, they might be more, used to going in the stores, but they will be spending less money as time goes on, just due to population and demographic changes. So, I do think there's a lot of different things that are happening, but I do see this trend continuing and actually increasing over time.
So, do you find that I was talking to some other people on the podcast, but they brought up the point that there's so many competitors and that AI is advancing at such a rate that technology that was created maybe even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even or even last year, there's new technology. Do you think do you have a hard time kind of keeping up with that, with the new advancements in technology? Do you find that a lot of technology is becoming kind of obsolete now, or?
I mean, absolutely. Like it it's been a challenge for us. I think we've adapted well. Um, but this was part of our, you know, um, this was part of our decision, or one of the reasons why we took the offer to sell the company, which is
Yeah,
that I think up till now, you see their when the technology was not that strong, you could build a company based on an algorithm, right? And what
yeah,
that meant was some unique IP that you had, which was better than how other people could do it. And therefore, you had an edge, and that could get you business, right?
yeah.
However, these algorithms are so incredibly strong and powerful now that basically everyone's going to be using the same types of algorithms because they're just so much better than anything that was there before. So the question is not really, can I have a better algorithm? The question now is, can I have better data? So
Ah,
if everybody's using roughly the same algorithm, the differentiator is, how many users do you have using your platform? So in theory, like the best system to understand what you like, the way that we built our first system, right, was we actually created a breakdown of all the different things in a grocery store and understood that this product was vegan and this one, was for babies that were between 0 and 5 months old, right? Like we actually understood all the different attributes of all these products. And we used that to have a deep understanding of what customers might want to buy. Now, with this new technology, you know, you don't really need to know how it works, but it's able to figure it out unbelievably well. So well
ah,
that you don't need to learn all these attributes about products.
wow.
But the thing is that, the person that's going to have the best engine is the person that has the most shoppers using it, because that's what makes the models better. It's the data, right? So
Yeah.
for us, it was a natural decision to want to become part of a company that has millions of monthly shoppers. So we actually sold our company to the, like, outside of Instacart, the largest B2B e-commerce grocery website maker,
Wow. Wind shop, right?
Winshop. Exactly. So
Wow.
for
And I've never heard of them. That's interesting.
and that's because they never put their brand first. But if you've ever shopped at, most of the local chains in the United States, when you shop at those types of companies, they're using a company like Winshop to build their website, to build and manage it.
Oh,
It's a
so it's
big
like a website
business,
builder.
yes, but specifically for grocery e-commerce. So it's highly tuned, it's highly specific, and they're not just building the website, they're running the e-commerce business. So it's
Okay.
much more than just building a website. It's actually creating a new channel for sales through e-commerce, through the web,
So like the
right?
promotion and the advertising, the marketing.
Correct. And
That's
so, you know, and for us, our thought was this, Winshop has the most users using their platform. So let's go and take our technology and actually hook it up to a user base like theirs, because that's
yeah.
going to make it even more powerful, especially with the new technology that's coming down the pipe. So far that's been a winning strategy for us. We've been very excited by the acquisition and by what we've been doing in the 9 months since then. Um, but I do think there's going to be a lot of pivots like that. I don't think this is a great time to be creating unique IP, unless you are extraordinarily sophisticated. Like, maybe you make the next version of ChatGPT that's incredible, but I'm talking about for people that are, you know, doing a very fine-tuned domain, right? Like ours was like only for the purpose of recommending groceries.
Yeah.
The people that are going to win that space are the people that have the biggest user bases and are fluent in AI, not the people with the best algorithm today.
That's really interesting that it's no longer going to be about innovating, but it's going to be about data. So if everybody has the same algorithms and everybody, is eventually going to then use the same data, where do you think they're going to go from there?
Well, but the thing about data that's beautiful, right, is that if I have more data today, then I have a better product, right? And having a better product lets me get more business. And that more business means I have even more data in the future.
So it's a
So
cycle.
exactly, it's an exponential cycle. So the people that can get in there and can win because they have the best thing, then can build a structural advantage that can lead them to continue to win over time.
So what do you think is going to separate then everybody?
It's going to be whoever wins first and can continue to win and drive innovation is going to be, the companies that pull away with it.
So do you think small teams anymore, like you guys, you were just maybe the three of you, do you think any like small teams like that can still succeed in such a competitive environment?
Absolutely. I mean, small teams can be more competitive than ever. They just have to be hooked into large user bases. It's like this type of AI technology, it means that you don't need to have a PhD to build, useful IP. A lot of people can do it. But what it means is that you need to get users to then teach your model how to do its thing better before its competitors can. And then you need to use that advantage to win the market. By winning the market, you win the technology.
Wow. Um, that's really interesting that you guys are more than just a like honestly, just like a groceries thing. You're really into all this technology and data, and I never really thought that this was beyond groceries, but that's really interesting. So do you think that's a new we're going to see that as a new industry, like a data kind of industry?
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing it, right? Like there's a phenomenal amount of interest and investor appetite in, not just AI algorithms, but also all of the data processing around it, and all of the infrastructure, the storage, the computation. So, I mean, this really is the industry of tomorrow. And and it's exciting to be a part of it, and especially at such a young age because it means there's time to grow and adapt and continue to improve.
So how have you noticed improvement now that you have access to a larger database and more data? Have you capitalized on that?
Absolutely. I mean, we've used it both to improve our existing legacy tech, but also to create completely new versions of what we do, which uses, the latest and greatest of kind of research grade science, but also, just the fact that, you know, when millions of users tell you that, when they search holidays, they want to add turkey to their cart, that type of data, as simple as it is really, really useful when you're building an engine that, recommends everything you might like on Thanksgiving.
So do you think it's becoming easier as an entrepreneur because everybody's using the same algorithms and data is easy to come by? Or do you think it's because it's becoming harder because you constantly need to keep up and there's so much competition?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what the problem is that you're working on. Um, because we are lucky that we're in a problem space where it makes the thing a lot better. But there are some spaces where people haven't quite figured out the learning feedback loop. And in those ones, you're much more competition, right? Because anyone really could do what you're doing. So, I think it depends use case by use case, but in general, I think that, you know, somebody started a race and it's, whoever can get to the finish line fastest is going to win. And pretty much every industry is in the firing line. You know, it's an incredibly powerful piece of technology that's been released. And everyone sees it at the same time. And the question is who can run faster such that they can win.
Yeah. So how does your guys' future look at WinShop? Are you guys still kind of your own kind of company? The three of you are still together, or what's changed with you?
Yeah, no. So we have more resources being a part of the WinShop team, but they wanted to buy the company not just for its IP, but also because they want scrappy innovators to come in and be able to shake things up and move things faster and build new business. So we are still together and we are, working in lockstep, the three of us, and with our employees that we had before. Um, we had um, multiple people working for us prior to the acquisition, and so you know we are working together um and hopefully kicking some butt.
That's really cool, man. So what advice would you have to anybody? Do you think that a person without any knowledge of the computer industry environment and the industry, do you think they can almost start like create their own algorithms to perhaps increase whatever e-commerce business they have, maybe like a small Etsy thing on the side? Do you think it's at the point now where it's easy enough to do that, or?
Yeah, I mean my biggest advice would be get started with something, because only by doing something do you learn how to make something useful, right? So like there is no better time to get started than right now.
Yeah, very exciting time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and things are changing so much and things are coming up and so much innovation right now. It's a very cool time. So,
Absolutely.
one quick question. Do you think it's ever going to slow down? Do you think we're ever going to kind of hit a plateau? Because there's only
Yeah,
so
I mean,
much innovation.
well, the question is what's going to plateau? So right now we just saw this huge, these machine learning models got way better than they ever were before. And that's incredible and that ignites lots of growth. I don't think we're just scratching the surface of what you can do with these foundational models. Now, I think that the actual foundational models themselves are going to slow down. Like I think ChatGPT 5 is not going to be a million times better than Chat GPT 4. But I think there's trillions of dollars of industry value that can be revolutionized with Chat GPT 4 that we already have. So the question is like, where do we think it's going to speed up and slow down? I think the state of the art might slow down, but I think it's, how it actually changes and affects our world is just going to speed up.
Wow, that's incredible that the applications are so large with that. So, um, tough question here, but it's going to be the last question. How do you guys see yourself in, I don't know, 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very hard question to answer, right? Because like
Yeah, it's
if
everything.
you would have asked me 10 years ago when I was in college, am I going to start a company and do this stuff? I would have said, who the heck knows, right? So I think it's hard to predict the future, but I will say there's certain kind of trends that I feel very confident in, which is that I love building and starting companies. It's one of the most rewarding experiences of my life to work with people that I was friends with and actually build a thing with them and go through all the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So I think I want to continue down that path. And I think there's a huge amount of opportunity where you kind of put AI inside of a verticalized in industry. So I think that we're going to we're going to find something there, um, and continue to grow. The exact use case yet, I'm not sure, but like most things, it'll come with time.
That's really cool, man. Well, I've kind of gone beyond my 30 minute time frame here, a little bit longer, but I don't think the viewers will mind. Um, Mr. Michaelson, I really enjoyed having you on the podcast today. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
It was
Danny.
really interesting to learn about the. I thought I was going to learn about the grocery world. I learned about the tech world. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me and happy holidays.